I want to talk about gamification, and I think there are a lot of ladies, a lot of women in the room, more than the guys, but this one is especially for the guys. You remember playing football at school? You came home late and your mom was mad at you because you did not just have a hole in your knee, but you were happy because you were pretending to be Johan Cruyff or Marco van Basten or Patrick Kluivert, and you scored the winning goal. Or you remember the feeling of bonding you have with the whole family and different generations sitting together, playing games together on a winter night. This is not my grandma, but it could have been her. She became 96. And the last couple of years, when I visited her in the home for elderly people, after about 15 minutes or so, we didn't have that much to talk about. Except when she was talking about bingo or bridge. She got the lights in her eyes, and she was more attractive, more energy. She was focused. You guys, everybody here has got a smartphone. And within smartphone, we have augmented reality as a technology. And nobody was using it. Hardly anyone. Until about a year ago, Pokemon Go came. 500 million downloads, 6 weeks. The best example for me is the power of play. I come a lot in Belgium. I was there yesterday. And I'm always feeling a little bit, it feels a little bit strange when you feel the difference between the Flemish and the people in the French-speaking part. The two different cultures. It's a divided country, except when there's football and the Red Devils play, and the whole country comes united. Everybody is there. These are some examples of what we call the power of play. And we think we are at hand, a company that uses or helps companies to implement gamification within the company. We think play is one of the strongest universal forces there is to drive people, to improve cooperation, to get focus, to increase this feeling of bonding together, to adapt new technology and processes, and to mobilize people. And what we do as at hand is we help companies to implement that. And this is my colleague here, Maurits. He's a director of business development at hand. And myself, I founded at hand in 2003. And a really long time ago, about 25 years ago, I finished my education as a teacher in physical education. So I was a teacher in gym classes. And I think that's still a big privilege for me. Because right now everybody thinks that gamification is something new. But at our school, when we were teaching kids, we were using play constantly to improve communication in between, to create a higher self-esteem. So it's nothing new there. After that, I quickly moved into business, and I started at hand in 2003. And like I was saying, we use the power of play to help large companies to reach an audience or to make people understand their products or sell more products, to increase performance, let's say customer happiness, for example, or to help companies to change in a more cultural way of thinking. We do that pretty successfully. We do it for large corporations, all the telecom operators in the Netherlands we work for. We work for PwC, for companies like Ahold. And although we're not an e-learning company, we're pretty proud that we have the last 2 e-learning awards at our office. So Maurits and I were talking last week and said, okay, we can talk about gamification all week. And now we've got half an hour. So how can we be most valuable to you guys? And we said, okay, let's try to provide 4 insights, 4 do's and don'ts, something concrete that we've got all the knowledge and a lot of experience there, and something you can take with you if you want to start working with a gamification. Some lessons that we already have experienced. So first of all, why play? There's a lot of scientific work on training, on understanding, and everybody is focusing on what we do rationally. And on the science part, on the play part, there's not that much to find. Pretty close by, we have got a road. It's called the Johan Huizinga-laan. And this is one of my big heroes. And in my perspective, he's still the founder of understanding the science of play, behind play. And he wrote this book called Homo Ludens, de spelende Mens, for the people who speak Dutch here. And he wrote it in 1938. And it's a pretty important book. Next to Anne Frank, he is the most translated author in the Dutch, the Dutch language zone. And what he said, everybody plays throughout our whole life, disregarding age and disregarding culture. And he goes one step further. He said, play is deeper inside us as humans as either culture or language. Animals play, not just to learn new skills. It makes sense that a newborn lion needs to play for hunting to get the skills, but also because it's a safe way to improve your status within the group, and that was something that Huizinga found out. And I don't know why everybody here in Amsterdam came together. We had 250,000 people on the Museumplein last Wednesday. It hurt. Luckily yesterday we had a good day in Holland because of the win in the Giro by Tom Dumoulin. But there's nothing rational about that. There's nothing rational in going to a square and supporting your group or your home team. There's nothing rational in playing bingo or playing video games. But it is a very strong way to increase your status within the group. And from an evolutional point of view, that's very important to all of us, because good status in the group means that you have a higher chance of survival. And that was something that Huizinga found out. He also said play has to be safe, and play has to be different from reality. So when we do a project together for a large client from us, especially the commercial directors are very keen on this. We sell a sales game and we have a large increase in sales. And then this commercial director comes up to us and says, hey, this is something cool. I want this every day. And then we look at Huizinga and said, that won't work. You can't do it every day. It has to be different from your reality. So that's one of the first lessons I'd like to share with you. Okay, what about gamification? I'm sure a lot of people know something about it. For us, this is our way of looking into it. Gamification is not a game that you play next to your work with a complete different storyline. Most of us know the Runkeeper or Strava apps on your smartphone. And then something that you do in reality is translated into game progress. You gain a lot of badges or you score high on a leaderboard, for instance. What we do with that hand is we combine those two. And we say a gamification project should be an improvement booster, including a personal dashboard and a personal coach at hand. The game should take you by the hand and guide you to another level. Where we use these gamification elements, like badges, like leaderboards, like competition, but we also add a storyline to it, and we have a very clear game start and game objectives there. Okay, like I said, the ambition for today, 4 do's and don'ts from practice, from reality. First of all, we advise you to come up with a storyline and not just add the badges like you have with Strava. I'm going to show you an example. This is a game we created for Vodafone. In Holland, Vodafone and Ziggo, the large telecom operators, have joined forces, and now we have staff who are very convenient and experienced in selling mobile, and they have to sell fixed lines. For them it's hard. So what we did, we created this game.
It is 2047. The whole country has been left destitute. It all started in the telecom industry, which in 2016 became dominated by industrial giant X Corp. X-Corp swiftly moved into other industries, knocking out all competition until they had achieved total market dominance. It is now your mission to save this country.
Dit mag niet in de handen van mensen van X-Corp komen. Dit moet naar de mensen van Vodafone. Ja.
Travel back in time to the year 2015, and together with Vodafone, take up the fight against X-Corp. Play as Morty and choose your ultimate time machine. Optimize your skills by playing knowledge battles. And make sure to survive as you pass through different story episodes. Make Vodafone stronger as you sell Vodafone Fixed and see your team shoot up the rankings. The future is counting on you.
Okay, we're talking about selling fixed lines. So why should we add a storyline there? Well, these are guys that have been working into these shops or in call center client service organizations for a couple of years. And every 2, 3, 6 months or so, a marketeer comes up and says, hey, we got this new proposition and something cool, and they're a little bit bored there. So we need to inspire them. And we give them a high objective, and of course everybody understands that this is not real, but it's like seeing a movie and becoming part of it. Next to this, you need to make sure that when you use gamification, it has to feel safe. So what we can do, and we see a lot of examples there, we could come up like with the Strava or Runkeeper model and said, okay, you gain a lot of points for selling more stuff or passing e-learnings or certain exams there. And then when I'm there with my real name and with my real picture, and I'm dropping a little bit there in the whole scoring line, it hurts. And here, this is a game. Although the scoring is based on what I do in reality, it always feels safe because there's an avatar there. And when I don't compete that good or don't perform that good, it doesn't really hurt. Of course, we need to be distinctive with day-to-day work. And of course, a storyline does that. And most of all, we have to create a very strong goal. And this goal is not about selling a lot of fixed lines. That's not really inspiring. It's about saving this country for the future. And I'm becoming a hero. That's a lot more inspiring. And you can add that when you use a storyline there. Of course, when you have different audiences, then you have different needs, and we create games for different target groups. So when we create a game for the accountants and the fiscalists of PwC, it looks different than when we create a game for staff in a retail environment. So always, advice from us, always look at, of course, your target audience there. And yes, you want competition, because it's about play. And gamification is a little bit about competition, but it's like running a marathon. You do want competition, but you don't want losers. And that's very important. So if I run a marathon, it's important that I finish it. And if I finish it, I feel proud. And it's our objective, and we sometimes create games for 6,000, 7,000 people at the same time. We are very disappointed if less than 80% of the whole population do not finish the game. And a game for us lasts approximately 6 weeks or so. And like in this marathon, you feel proud when you finish it after 6 weeks or so. And of course, there could be one guy there, and he's the fastest of all, and you applaud for him. That's what we mean by yes, competition, but no losers. Of course, we like to create beautiful things there, but it's not. It's always about the objective first. And the objective, in this case, is a real accountable business objective. And of course, we can create cool movies and stuff like that, but it's always about It's hard to sometimes to keep that focus, and sometimes the game itself should not be the goal. It's always about the business result that you are focusing on. Okay, another lesson I would like to learn or share with you guys is based on improvement. And the funny thing is that most people here in this room are probably from learning and development organizations, right? Focusing on training and stuff like that. And when we train or try to make people improve or change behavior, we are focusing about understanding. Behavior is not about understanding, unfortunately. Not even for you guys, I'm sorry. And I think a good example is when you go to the UK, for instance, or another country, when you drive to the other side of the street. From a cognitive perspective, that's not really hard, right? I mean, you have to go to the other side of the car, you have to shift gear left, and when there's a roundabout, you go to the left side instead of the right side. It's not really hard. But it's a good example about how behavior works. It's very hard in reality. For me, it's very hard. Not in the city, because you just follow the traffic. But when you're on a small road, there's nobody there, it's very hard not to go to the right side. And that's how behavior works. So it's very conditioned. Another thing that drives behavior is pain and pleasure for our brain. People who smoke know this from experience, also from a cognitive part, from an understanding part. Everybody understands they're good for you. But it's very hard to quit, because it feels good for your brain. And here's the interesting thing about play. Status, reward, also feels very good for our brain. That's where Johan Huizinga came in. He said it's very important there. So what we try to do is you should try to give people a higher status. For instance, we need you to save this country in a storyline, and then change behavior by conditioning. In this case, it's about selling fixed lines. So you should focus on making sure these people will ask cross-sell questions, for instance. Everybody here in this room has learned the skills that you're using today for your work just by doing, 70%. 20% from it comes from shoulder-to-shoulder coaching, and some 10% from a particular form of theoretical training there. So you should focus on that. And when you use gamification, try to make the result or the outcome or the behavior, make that the most important in your score model there. And you need, of course, put knowledge in there, but mix those two. And in the score model, there's always a bigger weight in the score model for the objective, the behavioral part, than the theoretical part. So this is a typical timeline example. We advise you to make sure that the game lasts about 6 weeks or so, because in 6 weeks you have a long-term effect. Focusing on changing on behavior 6 weeks on a daily basis will have a longer lasting effect. 6 weeks is short enough to be distinctive. So that's a good balance there. And here you can mix the score model and say, okay, sales is more important in score than theory. Some do's and don'ts. The KPIs. In this case, the most important KPI is the scoring. You make the scoring, you give that the highest percentage in the scoring model. You give the highest score for selling products. And try to reward action. Try to see what is the typical behavior that we're looking for, measure that, and reward it into points of progress in the game. And you can use existing audits for there. Within retail, for example, there's mystery shopping. In a call center, there's what we call quality monitoring. People are listening to the phone and say, okay, this agent or this employee is doing this or that. And it always looks at what you don't do. Use the same system, but reward for actual behavior that you're looking for. For instance, if you like 2,000 people in retail to ask cross-sell questions about selling fixed line, that's what you're measuring in mystery shopping, and you change that into game progress points. Some don'ts. People measure a lot. focus on only the real important KPIs that are really connected to actual behavior. Don't make it too complex. And of course, don't forget attitude. Intrinsic motivation is more important than knowledge. Strongly driver. Okay, lesson number 3. Help gamification to create an adaptive learning environment. Example.
Every 5 years, a small tropical island in the middle of the Pacific arises from the depths of the ocean. This mysterious little island plays host to a centuries-old tradition in search of the greatest athlete in the world, champs. Only the finest athletes in the world are secretively invited to participate and prove their might. You are one of them. So how do you become the glorious winner of champs? Work together as a team, defeat other athletes in trial battles, and prove that you are the mightiest athlete of them all by winning the matches. The strongest will be rewarded. Don't miss your chance.
So you can imagine that when we create a game, there is quite an impact because it's advanced technology. There's a lot of effort and money we put into this look and feel and this storyline and technology. So what we did is we created some themes that can be used on a license base for different types of clients and different types of games as well. And Champs is one of these themes, and we use this game, for instance, as a rookie game to make sure that the onboarding of new employees is going faster, and we let people perform better in a shorter amount of time. So we decrease about 20% of the onboarding time to make sure that people excel and work on a norm level. Within this storyline, we can create your own content, and instead of e-learning, you can make people use knowledge battles. For instance, those are short e-learning type of quizzes and challenges, and we can challenge each other. And it's more stronger than typical e-learning. And when I go through the storyline, in this case, it's like a ridiculous version of the Olympics. I pass the different exams, and I challenge other virtual athletes, and I become the winner of this tournament. And what happens there, if I lose a battle, for instance, and this battle is on a particular knowledge part, for instance, how to use a particular system or to understand the process within a company. If I lose the battle, I can link from the battle to existing learning platforms. And you all have a lot of information on the intranet. You probably have lots and lots of e-learnings available on soft skills, on how to use the different systems and tooling. And of course, you can also use link to external sites on YouTube or whatever. And that's how a game instantly makes your existing knowledge and training program more adaptive. KPI and QM score. This is an example in a call center environment. Here we can make sure that coaches, and coaches are managers, team leaders, can add extra points by providing badges for particular behavior that they found and that they see with the employee. To give you a good understanding here, this is a game that we're using right now. It's a game for Transcom. Transcom is one of our clients. We work in different locations throughout Europe. And this is the rookie game. So what I do here, these are names of teams, go for the coach tool, that are working in this game right now. And they've come up with their own team name. So there's a new class coming in, and they created, and they gave their name for, let's say, the Fantastic 12. And within the Fantastic 12, there are different agents, different employees. For this one, I can choose, let's say, Rosemarijn. And this is her avatar that she created. This is a different storyline. In this storyline, it's called Heroes. It's like the Batman story, but a little bit more nicer. and she can receive badges from her team leader for a particular behavior that he is looking for. I Cannot Do It, that's the badge name that they have they came up with, the Transcom team came up with, for even trying. So there's always something that you give. It's never negative there. These are KPI points. So QVO is in the Transcom environment the name for customer happiness, for instance. They measure that. And the KPI, the customer happiness score, of course, is very important. Like I can double it for her and say, okay, for you this is more important. Or in next week I can change this as a coach and say, okay, in this case, quality monitoring, focusing on the right processes here, is your focus point next week. So people play the same game, but everybody's looking and focusing on their own personalized challenges there. These are obviously always work-based. Okay, some do's to make it adaptive. Same game, different learning path by all of us. Don't try to push everything through the same book. We will launch a game in 2 or 3 weeks from now, together with our partners at TaylorTrain, a company we work for together with a lot. They're an e-learning and training company. And we will launch the WFT, or in Dutch WFT game, for making sure that everybody who is working for an insurance company has a WFT certificate. That's quite boring stuff, 350 pages of quite boring rules and regulations. And when you use a game, you understand who knows what, and you can link to the specific part that people really need to learn. And if they don't need to learn because they know it already, it's checked in the game. So you make it much more effective and more fun. And what we want them to do is always coach positive. We learn a lot. We've got this pinball machine at the office, and when you shoot the ball, you already have points. And that's what you should do in gamification as well. Never distract points, always provide extra scores there. Always be positive. And of course, link to the most existing platforms. Don't renew them. It's like a booster that you're using for your existing platforms. It's not something new. Don't try to develop an own game for every single employee or every single target that you have. The business case won't come out. It's going to be too hard. But make sure that everybody has his, we used to say, personal development plan. But this time it's in a game, so it's much more fun, and it's more focused. It's more measurable as well. And don't forget management. That's a very, very important thing there. Okay. So if I perform in reality, then you see the game and I win the tournament. And this is like the marathon feeling that we're looking for. Making progress in reality is translated into progress within the game. And after 6 weeks, I'm finished with the game and I feel like a winner. And there could be one team or one person that's better than the rest, but no losers. Very important. The last one, know how to balance. A football match lasts 90 minutes. And if it's really, really important, it has to be a winner. Yesterday was a day like that. We have some extra time or we have penalties there. But then it's over. And the most important football game in the world is only played once in every 4 years. So balance it. You can play gamification programs like this, projects like this, for 3-4 times a year, for 6 weeks. And it's like the booster, the turbo in your car. It helps you to increase. And because it lasts 6 weeks, you have a longer lasting effect. In between, business as usual. And then 2 or 3 months later, go to the next game and focus less on sales, more on quality, or on customer friendliness, or another task there. So balance is very important here. Enough time for a structural effect. And several games per year works very good there. But don't make it too short. The best experience we've had is 6 weeks is the perfect time for it. 4 weeks is too short to make a lasting effect. 8 weeks is too long. It's get boring. It's like playing football the whole time. When we have long traineeships, for instance, and we've worked for Ahold for the last 5 years, and we've created a gamification layer on the traineeship. And the traineeship, of course, lasts 2 years or so. And what we do then, and we have a big learning development program for Ascent right now, one of the energy providers in the Netherlands. And then we split it up into what we call learning sprints of 6 or 8 weeks or so. And you have 6 or 8 weeks of focus on a specific task, then day-to-day business, and again, a couple of months later, a new learning sprint. Make sure that you understand the difference between a dashboard and a game. For me, Strava or Runkeepers are typical dashboards. They show me how I, in a very friendly way, how I perform in reality. But it's not like playing a game or challenging each other with a storyline there. Some don'ts. Already mentioned this one. Don't make a game last longer than about 8 weeks or so. And don't try to create a new game for each project. There are lots of different software solutions out there. We have, for instance, 3 to 4 games on the shelf that you can use just for a license fee. And the Champs program will work for sales, but also work for quality or improvement or some other performance game. Make sure that they don't last too short. We have already mentioned that one. So, does it work? Obviously. Like I mentioned, the rookie game, for instance, we have a decrease of 20% in time and an increase in performance. A sales game, this is an average. We've got games that we've really boosted sales with a couple of 100%, but an average is about 22%. And for the leadership game, it's harder to mention because everybody is focusing on their own learning and behavioral objectives in a leadership game. Some people are looking into situational leadership and other people on focusing on communication skills. But the appreciation on a 1 to 10 scale is an 8.9 for instance for the Ascent game or the Ahold game. We are focusing on leadership. Performance game, like I said, 80% target is the amount of people that really finish the game. And if you finish the game, then you perform better. Otherwise, you can't finish the game.